Hello. So, today we'll be talking about quadratic equations, and in quadratic equations, different from linear equation, there's what they call linear and what they call quadratic. What's the difference? A linear equation is something of this form. So I think we should just get right into the classroom. It's something of this form. You see something of ax plus, let's say, let's just use a normal linear equation with only one unknown variable. Ax plus b is equal to 0. Now, the unknown variable here we can see already is what? The x. Sorry, yeah, it's the x. I want to change the color of that marker. Is the x. Why my a is, they are what they call the coefficients, or let's call them constant values. So this a will always pick a value. Maybe a can be 5, 6, 0, 1, whatever value you want to pick. B can be 2, 3, 4, 5, but my x is just 1. And notice something, my x has a power of what? It has a power of 1. Is that okay? Now, this is what we call a linear equation. A linear equation is known by majorly two things. One, it has it has an is an equation. That's correct. It's an equation. What's an equation? An equation is an algebraic statement with, or maybe an equation is a mathematical statement with an equality sign. So if I write ax plus b and I didn't put a 0, this is not an equation, this is just an expression. But when I put a 0, I put maybe a 5 or anything is equal to something, once this equality sign comes in, it then becomes a what? An from the word equation. Okay, so that one is just basic mathematics 101 for you. Let's go back to, oh sorry, that's non-intentional. I was trying to wipe that off. Okay, so let's go back to what we're discussing. Now, in what we're talking about quadratic equations. We've talked about a linear equation, and I said that first of all it's an equation. Then second of all, it's also the unknown has the power of what? 1. The unknown, the unknown it has a power of 1. So if I also put in maybe a y also, the y must have only the power of what? 1. But a quadratic equation is an equation whereby the highest power of the unknown has a power of what? 2. The highest power that the unknown bears has a power of what? 2. Therefore, if I was to put this, I'll put it as this. This is the general method. It appears ax plus b. I'm using just one unknown right now, so let me continue. Bx plus c is equal to 0, where this has power of 2, then power of 1, and then no power here. So therefore, what happens? This has the highest power of what? 2. At this point, this becomes a quadratic equation. But I'm not trying to go into the basics. Maybe later on I'll put a video where I'll talk about more of the basics of equations and quadratic equations as needs be. But right now, to just go into how to solve a quadratic equation. So this is just the thing you need to know about. So this is the power of 1. Here has an x also, but raised to the power of 0. Because remember, when x is to the power of 0, according to indices, it is equal to 1. So c times 1 is still c. I'm sure you get that. C multiplying x raised to the power 0 is like saying c multiplying 1, because x raised to the power 0 is equal to 1, and c times 1 is still c. That's why we have this staying like that, and we didn't need to bother ourselves by putting all this, so it's still c. Okay, so let's go into the classroom now, please. All these were not necessary. Oh, shall were necessary. So quadratic equations under factorization. I'll pick a question and then we'll try to solve it using what they call factorization. I'm sure you've heard of the term factorization, or factorize this stuff. It just means bring out the highest common factor so that you can simplify the way the mathematical statement looks like. For example, let me just give another example. If you're given 4xy plus 2x and they say factorize this, you look for what is common between this and this, right? And what's common, you can find out that here that 2 and 2 is common here, because 2 can divide 4 and 2 can also divide 2, that's a remainder, right? X is common, x can divide x, and x can divide x, that's a remainder. So that number that is common, the highest common factor, you bring it out, 2x, and then you use it to divide through the numbers, and 2x divided by 4xy will give you 2y, plus 2x divided by 2x will give you 1, and this is what we call factorization, because we know that when we open back these brackets, we will get back this value again. Is that okay? So that's still another detour from what we are supposed to do. I don't know why I'm going through too many detours. Okay, so quadratic equations and factorization. Under factorization, sorry. Now let's pick a question. I have my book here with me, so I'll pick maybe one or two questions and then we'll analyze how to solve it. Okay, let's see this one. X squared plus 5x plus 6 is equal to 0. And let's solve it using factorization methods. So using factorization method, we first of all try to factorize these values that we've gotten. Now remember, if the general form of a quadratic equation is what? Ax squared plus bx plus c is equal to 0. Therefore, we know that our a here is what? Our a is 1. How do we know our a is 1? Because there's an invisible 1 multiplying this x. This is called a unity equation. That's where your first value is a 1. So our b here is what? A 5. And our c here is what? A 6, right? So let's solve the question. Now I don't need to put this one here, I'll take it out. Now solving the question in factorization method, what factorization tells us that is that first of all, what should we do? We look for the value that when we add it, we add it, we get 5x. When we add it, we get 5x. So let me put that in a very simpler term. Let me put it very well. We look for a value that when we add, we get the b. What's your b? 5. And when we multiply that same value, we get your c, your ac. Now, what's your ac? Your ac is like saying a multiplying c, right? What's your a? Your a is 1. 1 times your c is what? 6. So 1 times 6 is still 6. So when we multiply, we get 6. Is that okay? So I'll repeat myself again. In factorizing, we look for a value or two values, not just a value, two values. Then when we multiply, when we add them, we get our b. And what's our b? 5. And when we multiply them, we get our c. And what we get our ac. And what's our ac? 6. So this is where you now need to just run through your mind and know what values can you pick. So there's no mathematical way of solving these parts here. You have to just think it through by yourself. So please, in case you're thinking there's a mathematical formula you need to put in to solve it, there's really none. But there can be easy ways of helping you to solve this. It's called bringing out all the factors, but that's a long method. But let's just try it out. So bring out all the factors, but no, I'm trying to skip that part. I'm not going to do that. So we think of a value. So let's think of a value that when we add them, we get b, and when we multiply it, we get 6. Notice something. If I say, if I was to do 3 and 2, I know that 3 plus 2 will give me 5. Is that correct? Yes. I know that 3 times 2 will give me what? 6. So therefore the value is what? 3 plus 3 and plus 2. Notice because they are all positive values, so they can do this for me. So I come back here to my equation and I write what? X squared plus, now I present this 5x as what? Plus 3x plus 2x. That's what you do. You present the value here in your b parts, and then plus 6 is equal to 0. So let me write them out without that circular stuff I put in. So what do I do next now? Now I begin to factorize. Notice something. I can find an x here and I can find an x here. So I can factorize what is common here. Now what is common here is only just x. So I can just bring out one value of x. And then I continue. So what will it be here? When I bring one value of x, x dividing x is just x dividing x squared is x, plus x dividing 3x is what? 3. So I continue again. Now in this part also I can see that what is common here is not x because there's no x here, but 2 is common because 2 can divide 2 and 2 can divide 6 without a remainder, right? Yeah. So I bring out what? Plus 2, and 2 dividing 2x is 2x, and 2 dividing 6 is 3 is equal to 0. Notice something. The value here and the value here are alike, and that is the aim in factorization. If you cannot make those two values at this point the same, then there is something with what you are doing. You have to go back and revisit it. It must be the same. Now proceeding, since they are the same, we'll just pick one of these brackets and pick these two outer values. So that's what we'll do. So to become what? Picking one of the bracket is x plus 3, and then picking the two outer values is x plus 2 is equal to 0. Now notice something, I didn't put any plus sign in the middle again. Now I put the brackets together because I know that once I multiply these brackets, I will get back my original answer. You can try that out yourself. Now we are almost done. The next part is to now make each one equal to 0. So to be x plus 3 is equal to 0, or x plus 2 is equal to 0. And then we solve them differently. X will then be equal to what? Minus 3, and x is equal to what? Minus 2. That's when they cross over to the negative, to the equality sign. Therefore, what about two roots of the equation? Minus 3 and minus 2. So that's what you solve. So maybe next time when we come again to the next class, we'll take one or two more questions on that factorization and we'll deal with it. And maybe we'll enter into how to solve using the quadratic formula. That's another method of solving quadratic equations. Thank you.